Hello everyone, this is Kikoto Mani from Team Get Wreck Robotics, as well as a member of Team WPI. Welcome to another episode of The Build Process, a series where I show you my process for building a combat robot from beginning to end. Today, we'll be rebuilding Esper, my 4-bar vertical spinner. Even though I've been building robots since 2018, Esper was my first time ever building a vertical spinner. For a long time, I actually avoided making vertical spinners because I was always more interested in making unique designs that went against the meta. However, after making so many other kinds of bots, I decided I was finally willing to make a vert as long as I could find a way to make it unique and stand out in comparison to other verts. And that's when I got the idea to put the vertical spinner on a 4-bar mechanism. I mostly did this because 4-bar lifters are one of my favorite types of robots, and I've also always been a fan of spinners that have their weapons on articulated arms. Esper has competed at 2 competitions, but it's never really done that well and only has 1 win to its name. The first time Esper competed, it was held back by several design flaws, and the second time it competed, it ran into major problems with the electronics. Needless to say, there is a lot of room for improvement with Esper, and I really want to do everything I can to have this bot live up to its potential. Esper will be competing in T-Town Beatdown on August 3rd, and so it's time to redesign Esper so that it can be the best bot it can be. Alright, so here we have the brand new version of Esper. So let's just go over everything one by one. So taking a look inside, we have the 2 top panels. So just hiding this. So they're just direct drive N10 motors from Turnabot. And yeah, these should be pretty good. I'm mostly switching these motors for weight. I actually used N20 motors in the very first version of Esper, but those were like very basic N20s I bought off Amazon. I didn't really look at the specs for them that much. And Esper's drive power was just pretty bad. It was so slow, it could barely push anything. So yeah, those N20 motors were pretty terrible. So for the version of Esper after that, I actually switched to Silver Sparks, and they were fine, but they were way too heavy, so I didn't have a lot of weight for armor and so on. But now I found a right balance. These are N10 motors that are very light, but unlike the first N20 motors that I got off Amazon, these ones from Turnabot, they have great RPM, and they're just higher quality in general. So I get good drive motors, and I get to save a bunch of weight, so this is a good mix. You probably already noticed, now Esper actually has side guards. I kind of never tried side guards before because I didn't have the weight for it, and I also just didn't think it was really worth it, but I've kind of changed my tune since I think I have the weight for it, so I might as well try to protect the wheels, and I kind of have to because, so these are just going to be directly attached wheels. And if they get hit, they're coming off, and they will probably take the motor with them. So it's good to have some kind of protection. So the way these side guards slot on is actually really cool. I've been using this kind of design method a lot. So we have this little block right here. And as you can see, the guard just fits right on there. And then it's also further held in with the top panel. So it just press fits in there. And the top panel also helps to hold it in place. And the same thing kind of applies to another thing I've added, which is a wedge. The wedge has the same kind of geometry where it just slots into these little blocks here. And yeah, it should hold on relatively well. Talking more about the wedge itself, this is going to be a 100% infill wedge because initially I thought about having a metal wedge, but I just don't think I have the weight for that. And I thought I might as well try TPU because I've heard that 100% TPU wedges can work sometimes. So I might as well try it here and see how it goes. This is definitely, I've designed it so that it can fend off horizontals, but I also want to try to be low to get underneath other stuff too. So hopefully that works out. So yeah, I really like the wedge, happy with the design, and hoping it just works as intended. Then of course we have the weapon, which is not a custom weapon. Again, I just don't really have the time or money to just make my own custom weapon right now. So I'm just using the same fingertech clamp drum I used in the first 2 versions of Esper. And it should be relatively well. Like, it's not the best weapon out there, but it gets the job done. The weapon motor is a very basic A 21, 22, 1000 kV motor, like what you get from Amazon. Again, it should work out. The arm, so let's talk about the big thing here, the 4-bar. And first of all, I want to say it was not easy to get the 4-bar to work in CAD. I had to learn a lot about how mates work, but I was able to get it to properly do the 4-bar thing, and I'm really proud of how it came out. So yeah, the whole assembly just moves out forwards on the 4-bar, and I'm really proud of how I was able to get it to work. So obviously, it's pretty simple when you actually think about it. This main link attaches here, and the other link attaches to this servo back here, which just allows the entire thing to move forwards and up, and I like it. And so as for the arm itself, so the biggest thing I'm trying with this robot that I've never done before is it's actually going to have a carbon fiber part. I've never used carbon fiber on any of my robots before, but this black thing here, that's meant to reinforce the weapon arm, which is just one piece of TPU. The main reason for that is just to reduce flexibility. I don't want the weapon to flex too much. So I'm just adding a very thin piece of carbon fiber. It's like 0.079 inches thick. And I'm going to get that send cut send. I'm just going to attach it, and hopefully it should work out. So yeah, this is a new thing I'm trying. This is my first time using carbon fiber ever. So yeah, let's see how that goes. Anyway, so aside from that, I'm trying to think about what else I've changed. That should be mostly it. Again, I'm just really proud of how I got the 4-bar to work. It was not easy. But yeah, it just kind of just rests in there, and it can just go out like that. So yeah, I guess that's mostly it for this brand new version of Esper. And let's get to building it. All right, let's take a look at the parts we'll be using for Esper. Real quick, if you hear anything in the background, that's just my 3D printer just printing some stuff. So that's what that is if you're curious about it. Anyway, so let's take a look at the parts we'll be using. Of course, we have the 4 drive motors. These are just some N10 drive motors from Turnabot. I used these in the latest version of Flaky Boy. And yeah, I like how they run. They're pretty nice. So I'm gonna use them here for Esper. Of course, we need some wheels to go on those motors. So here are the wheels. I just dropped one. So yeah, they're also just Turnabot wheels. Very grippy. They have the little Lego tires. And yeah, they're pretty great. Then we have our drive ESC that we'll be using, just a standard dual brushed drive ESC. Of course, we also need our weapon motor for the spinner. Now, that's what we'll be using here, just a standard A2212 on 1000 kV motor. Then we need the ESC for that motor. So we got a brushless reversible ESC from FingerTech Robotics. To put onto the motor is our weapon. So this is the FingerTech clamp drum. This is what I've been using on Esper. In fact, as you can tell, this is the exact one that I've used on Esper the last 2 times. I'm gonna get another one since this one's teeth are slightly worn out, but it's still very usable, still good as a spare. And until we get the new one, this just will be using in place of it. So yeah, this is the clamp drum. Many Antweights use them. And yeah, it's a pretty decent weapon. Of course, we also need the servo to move the arm. So here this is, it's a Metal Gear micro servo. Again, this is the exact servo I used in Esper the last 2 times. And yeah, it's a pretty nice servo. Like I said, it has metal gears, so hopefully it can handle more of the shock from the spinner hitting stuff. So hopefully nothing happens to the servo. And yeah, that's what we'll be using there. Then of course we need our Beck, our 5-volt regulator. So that's this. For the battery, I got a Free S 11.1 volt, 450 milliamp hour LiPo battery from Palm Beach Robotics. I really like by the way, I really like their batteries because like for their free S batteries, they are like really small and dense, and it saves a lot of weight. So I really like these batteries for Antweights. And lastly, our receiver. So as you can see, we got a lot of stuff here. Everything that's not currently here is the stuff that we'll be printing, like obviously like the weapon bracket and the main body and so on. So these are pretty much all the non 3D printed stuff we'll be using. And yeah, it looks like a big mess, but we're gonna we're gonna get all that together. And yeah, let's see how that goes. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and weigh everything. As always, it's always important just to make sure we're on the right track to be within the weight limit. So let's weigh what we have so far and see where we're at. So first the wheels, the battery, just putting everything here. And that's about everything. So we're at 224 grams. And of course, as an Antweight, which can weigh 1 pound, that's 454 grams. So we have about 230 grams left, give or take. And I think that should be enough for all the TPU stuff. So yeah, hopefully the bot will be within weight and nothing goes horribly wrong. All right, so as you can see, we started printing our first set of parts. I'm actually not printing everything all at once, just what's absolutely necessary first off so that I can begin testing. So I have the main body so that I can test the drive modes properly, and I have the weapon arm and its linkages so I can test that. And after that, we'll print the other stuff like the forks, side guards, and top panels and so on. But for now, we're just printing the most important stuff first, just so that we can start testing things quicker. So yeah, here's what we got so far. All right, we got our first batch of parts printed, so let's take a look at them now. First off, we have the parts for the weapon arm. First off, we have this link. This link is for the servo. Then we have the main link in the middle of everything. And of course, we have the main weapon arm. This is where the weapon motor attaches to. And as mentioned before, we're going to have a carbon fiber brace on this side to better reinforce it so it's less floppy. But aside from that, the part is looking pretty good. And so then we have the biggest thing so far, the main body. And as you can see, I actually have the wedge already attached. So originally the wedge was just going to slide onto these little tabs. But when I was test fitting it off screen, one of the tabs actually broke and the other one was really flimsy. And so I decided to just go ahead and just take a soldering iron and permanently melt the wedge to the main body, since realistically, there's no reason I'd have to take the wedge off anyways. So now the wedge and the body are just one piece, one solid piece. Speaking of solid, the wedge, I don't know if I already mentioned this, the wedge is 100% infill, so it should be good against spinners, especially horizontals. And everything else is about 10% infill with 3mm walls. So yeah, that's what we got so far. We still got some other stuff to print, but at least now that we have this, we can just quickly test some stuff we couldn't test before. So let's get to it. All right, so just using what we have so far, we've made a basic assembly of the bot using what we got so far. So we added the servo right about here. Here's the linkage. And the 4-bar should work as intended. I still got to put power to it to make sure everything works properly. We have the weapon attached. And so just looking at it, just fiddling around with it. One big thing I've noticed is that the weapon actually contacts with the wedge, which is bad. So I think I'm going to have to take a soldering iron and kind of just grind this down a little bit just so that there's more clearance for the weapon. And also, I think the weapon slightly touches the ground, so I'm going to have to deal with that. Also, speaking of the ground, so turning the robot over, I want the back wheels to touch the ground, but I think they just barely miss it, so I might need to cut off a little bit of this edge here to make sure the back wheels do touch the ground when upside down. So yeah, that's why I just put this together now, just so I understand stuff I need to change ahead of time. But aside from that, the robot looks all right. So let's just continue forward. Let's start soldering some electronics together. Okay, so we got all the electronics put into the robot. We got everything soldered together, so that's nice. We're just gonna do a quick little test to make sure everything's fine. First, we're gonna spin up the weapon motor. Obviously, I've taken off the weapon for safety reasons, so let's go ahead with that. Okay, that spins. That seems to spin fine. Okay, now we're gonna do the arm. Okay, so that's nice. You see the servo. Has a little bit of a kick to it, so that's nice. And now the drive motors. Okay. So far, everything seems fine. So, I think we can go from here. And yeah, everything seems all right so far. Okay, so good news. My send cut send order just came in. So here is the carbon fiber side that's gonna reinforce the spinning arm. And yeah, looks pretty nice, looks pretty clean. I love this. Fun fact, this is my first time ever ordering anything from Send Cut Send. It's also my first time having machine parts in general. And I like how it came out. So pretty cool, pretty neat. This is nice. All right, the bot is mostly done. We've added everything we didn't have before. As you can see, I've added the top panels and the side guards. Both the side guards and top panels are printed at 10% infill with 1mm walls. We're gonna weigh the bot later, and if we have weight, we can like thicken that up, maybe add more walls or something. But for now, this is what we got so far. Like I said I was gonna do, for the wedge, I took a soldering iron and just grinded down the edge of the wedge so that the weapon has full clearance, so it doesn't contact the wedge anymore. So that's good. And speaking of the weapon, as you can see, we have the carbon fiber support here, just to make sure there's no real flexibility, so that the weapon doesn't destroy itself. So yeah, the weapon is a lot more rigid now, so I'm happy with that. And the rod doesn't look that clean, honestly. So the wires to the motor kind of just go out here and they're kind of just taped here. I wasn't really sure of a better way to do that. Yes, the ESC is right here, but it should be fine, I guess. But yeah, overall, I'm relatively happy with how the bot has come out. So let's go ahead and weigh it and see if there's anything else we need to do. All right, it's time for the moment of truth. Let's put Esper on the scale and see how much it weighs. Let's do this. Okay, we seem to be about 2 grams overweight, which isn't that bad. We can definitely fix that. So just looking at the bot, immediately my first thought is maybe we could cut off a little bit of the side guards, like these little bits right here, because they don't seem to be that necessary. So I think we cut that off, we might be fine. So we're gonna go ahead and do that and see if that fixes the problem. If not, we can try to remove some other small stuff. All right, so like I said I was gonna do, I went ahead and cut off the little edges of the side guards in order to save weight. I also cut off the little thing that stuck out from the top of the weapon arm. Originally, the idea was that that little thing would brace against the ground with the robot when the rod's upside down, so that the back wheels could touch the ground and the rod could drive while inverted. However, I just couldn't get the angle to work, and I just couldn't get the back wheels to touch the ground like I wanted to. So instead, I've just cut it off entirely to save weight. And now the idea is to just try to self-right using the weapon. So hopefully that works out. But in the meantime, let's see if the robot is within weight now. So let's go ahead and weigh this thing. Okay, we're at 450 grams. We're actually 4 grams underweight. So yeah, it worked. Esper is officially within weight now, so that's good. All right, so now that we know the robot is within weight, I think now's a good time to do another little test. This time I've attached the weapon, but I've unplugged the weapon motor for safety reasons, obviously, so it's not gonna be spinning up at all. I've attached the weapon just so that I can see how the robot acts with the physical weapon on because of its weight, just making sure everything's fine there. So yeah, let's go ahead and test this out. So first we're gonna do a little 4 bar. All right, that's nice, a closer look here. Okay. Now we're gonna drive this. Okay. This is nice. I want to say immediately, this is the best driving Esper's ever had. The last two robots didn't drive that well. So this is immediately an improvement. Okay, I'm liking this. So yeah, Esper drives pretty well. I'm pretty happy with this. This is nice. This is great. Oh, I'm stuck underneath the door. I think that's a good place to stop. Esper loses to the door. And just like that, Esper is about 99% done. But there's still one last thing we need to do to really bring the robot to life. We gotta give it some googly eyes. So first, I'm gonna put one right about here. Okay. Then gonna put one right about here. And there you go. Esper is officially alive. He is a happy little robot. There you go. And that marks the end of this video. I'm honestly really happy with how the bot turned out. The last two versions of Esper were fine, but this new version of the bot is simply a massive improvement in every way, and I'm proud to have seen the robot grow over time. I really feel like a 4-bar vertical spinner has the potential to put on some entertaining and interesting fights, and I'm hoping to do exactly that with this new version of Esper. With Flaky Boy, Bird Strike, and now Esper all done, there's only one more bot I need to rebuild for T-Town Beatdown. I'll see you on the next episode of the build process, where I'll be putting the power of friendship back together. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a wonderful day.